Have you ever felt like you have no one? That you're all alone and have nowhere to turn? That's how I felt when my mom died and I had to live with my stepdad. I'm Natalie, and this is my story. My mom and I left my real dad when I was just a kid. I don't remember much about him, but I do remember that he was very mean. I would hide in the wardrobe with my hands over my ears when he shouted at Mum. Then he started shouting at me. Then he started using his fists, so my mom took us away. A year later, she married a new guy called Chris. He was all right. He didn't hit us, which was an improvement on my last dad. However, things went back to horrible before I knew it. My mom got sick. Cancer. She lost all her hair and her skin got pale. Then she got even worse. She got a fever and couldn't stop shivering. They took her to the hospital, but it was too late. It happened so fast, none of us were expecting it. I didn't even get the chance to say goodbye to her. I sat on a plastic hospital chair and screamed and kicked and cried. My mom made Chris my legal guardian, so I was stuck living with him. We didn't have much to do with each other before Mum died, and now he had to look after me on his own? I didn't want him, I wanted my mum, but all I had of her was a ring that I took from her jewelry box. I went looking for my real dad. At least he related to me. Oh, thank God for the internet. It didn't take me long to find him. But when I did, I discovered that he was in prison. I guess he found someone else to use his fists on when Mum and I left. I didn't want to live with him. He was obviously a dangerous man. Chris didn't have anything to do with me, and now he was bossing me around, telling me to do my homework and brush my teeth and go to my room when I was bad. He kept trying to talk to me about Mum. He kept telling me it was okay to miss her, and he was there if I wanted to talk about her. I hated it. She was my mum first, and he wasn't allowed to act like he knew how I felt. I did things to annoy him, like hide his keys and put salt in his coffee instead of sugar. When he gave me my dinner, I wouldn't eat it. When he told me it was time for a bath, I left the taps on and flooded the bathroom. I was naughty at school, and he had to come and see the head teacher. Everyone was so cross with me, and it was so unfair. I'd just lost my mum, and they didn't understand. Eventually, I think Chris gave up on me. He stopped trying to get close to me, stopped trying to talk to me about Mum. I preferred it that way. I just wanted to remember her on my own, and I didn't want him to get involved. Things stayed like that for a few years. He would cook me food, and I never went without school shoes or books. But that was where it stopped. He pretty much let me do whatever I wanted within reason, and I pushed him as far as I could, waiting to see if he would snap. I just wanted to go away. I didn't need him. One night I came home and Chris wasn't there. I was watching TV when there was a knock at the door. There were 2 police officers standing there. They asked me if my dad was called Chris. "Stepdad," I said. They told me he'd been in a car accident. He'd been taken to the hospital. They'd know more in the morning. Would it be all right, or if they needed them to call someone for me? I told them I'd be fine. Did I have someone who could take me to the hospital in the morning? I told them I didn't. They'd come back in the morning and take me to see him. I thanked them and shut the door. As soon as they left, I grabbed the phone and I tried to call him to make sure he was all right. I called him 20 times, and he didn't pick up. I was panicking. I don't want him to die. The thought surprised me. He wasn't going to die, but what if he did? What would I do then? I shook my head. If he died, I'd be fine. I'd deal with it. I didn't want him around anyway. I didn't care about him. I opened the fridge. It was full of my favorite drink and my favorite foods. How did he know? I felt tears in my eyes. It all came crashing down on me like a ton of bricks. He really cared about me. He looked after me when I lost my mum. Even though he wasn't my real dad, he'd been taking care of me for years. Even when I had been nothing but horrible to him, all while trying to deal with losing his wife. I couldn't sleep that night. The guilt ate away at me. I couldn't wait till the next morning. I decided to order a taxi, and I grabbed my stuff fast and headed towards the hospital. I had to see him. I had to tell him that I'm sorry before it was too late. When I arrived, I was still panicking. I went to the reception and asked to see him, and was guided to his room shortly after. When I came in, I saw my stepdad lying in his bed without moving. His condition looked pretty bad. He was injured all over. Seeing him like this nearly made me collapse. I quickly ran up to him, hugged him, and started crying uncontrollably. I felt his hand gently holding me as he said with a weak voice, "It's okay, sweetie. I'm going to be okay. Please forgive me, Chris. I've been really unfair to you." He smiled. He told me there was no need to apologize, that I was just a little girl who lost her mum. He said he was never trying to replace her, just trying to raise me into someone that she would be proud of. I hugged him tighter and was unable to move for a while. I was so glad he was okay, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing him, especially after losing my mum. He was the only person I have left that really cared about me, and I had a lot to apologize to him for. It was going to take a long time to repair the damage between us, but I was determined to find a way to make it up to him. Thanks for watching. Do you have anyone in your life that's helped you through a difficult time? Let us know in the comments below.